Yeah, so I think the biggest thing overall that this has taught me is to just stay consistent every single day, because even on the days that you don't wanna do it, that's okay. I have plenty of videos that are about, like, finding the positive, finding the good on the days that you're tired, or staying positive through an injury. I had, like, a neck injury early on, and I was like, "How am I supposed to go on here when I'm in this much pain and, tell people and be positive?" And you guys, being positive and finding the good is not saying that there's no bad or there's no sadness or there's no, hurt. Like, that's not the message that I'm trying to portray here. You're not positive because your life is easy. You're positive because life can be really hard.
Well, I had a follow-up question for you, but I think you just answered it. So,
I tend to just ramble like that, You just
well, I was like, "Well, here's the perfect follow-up question for Mallory," and then you just answered it. So I have a good thing I have, another one for you. So in our prior conversation to this interview, you used the phrase that positivity is a muscle that needs to be flexed, and I think you just, touched on it a little bit a few minutes ago, but can you just expand or elaborate on what that means? And I'm glad you mentioned how, like, in those first 100 days and even now, there are days where, you don't necessarily have, like, the best day, but you still are committed to this, and it's a mindset to just because you wanna be positive, doesn't mean that life is easy or, that your day is going well. Like, there are hard days, but you can choose to find the positive in something, the good in something. So can you just please elaborate on positivity being a muscle that needs to be flexed?
absolutely. So, what I mean by that is it's not necessarily something that just comes naturally, right? You have to practice finding the good. Just in the same way that you have to flex your muscles, work your muscles for them to get bigger, and to develop that like muscle memory, right? So the more like think about like a bicep curl, for example. I mean, the first time we did a bicep curl, I don't know when that was, like let's say elementary school or middle school or something. It's weird, right? And but over time, you develop those muscles, you get stronger, you use heavier weights, and your body remembers how to do it. You don't have to think like if I just handed you a weight right now and I said, "Hey, do a bicep curl," you would do it. You wouldn't have to think about like exactly where to put your arm or where to hold your elbow or, you don't have to think through all of the exact mechanics of it. And finding the good and being positive, I think is a lot like that. Like you have to practice it. You have to like do the things to to build that muscle memory to look for the good. We're constantly you can rewire your brain, right? Your thoughts. I learned something the other day. 95% of our thoughts are repetitive thoughts throughout the day. We are thinking things over and over and over, and they're the same things. So, the challenge to that and the question you should be asking yourself is okay, well, what are the thoughts that I'm repeating all the time? What are those things that I'm telling myself? Am I telling myself limiting beliefs? Am I telling myself that I'm not doing this well enough? Am I telling myself I'm unattractive or stupid or, fat or whatever? What are the thoughts that you are telling yourself? Are you telling yourself that you're poor and you're never going to see success? Are you telling yourself that you're a failure? Are you telling yourself everyone around you is better than you? Those are the things that like those repetitive thoughts, those become our feelings and our actions, and ultimately our actions become our habits, and that is what leads to success or failure, right? So switching out like that's the bad news, right? Is that if you are having all those thoughts, like that's not great.
Right.
But the good news about that, the good news is that we are in control of what those thoughts are. And when you start to have those negative self-limiting beliefs and you allow those thoughts to start matriculating or in your head, you can stop that and say, "All right, that's not a thought that I want to continue repeating." And you can replace that thought with a thought that you do want to repeat, whatever that looks like. And so I think, affirmations are so important. There are things that I tell myself about, my success and about my family and about, creating an exceptional marriage and all of these things that are important to me um, in all different aspects of life. Because again, if you're just setting goals or just focusing on one thing, um, it's kind of like rowing a boat with one oar. You're just going to spin in circles, right? So you don't want to have an incredible business at the expense of your marriage and your family life. That's not worth it.
Right.
So, setting those goals in all aspects, I think is really, really important. But we are in control of what those thoughts are. And I think a few years ago, I used to think like that, I'm supposed to like that people that are positive, people are either positive or negative is sort of the belief that I had. And the people that woke up and chose to find the good and were people that I enjoyed being around. Everybody wants to be around positive people, right? Everybody prefers those people over the negative people. I kind of had this idea in my head that they just like woke up and it was a given and they just didn't have to do anything. They rolled out of bed and everything went their way and everything was just simple. And that's not true. It's just
Right.
simply not true.